Hi everyone, I am Clinton McClung, Executive Director here at Scarecrow Video, and I am joined today by the great David Schmader. He is here because he wrote a fabulous new book. I have it right here. It's called Filmlandia. And David, why don't you tell us a little bit about this book and how it came to be?
Sure. Okay. It's from Seattle publisher Sasquatch Books, and I'd worked with them on my first book called Weed, the User's Guide, which is just what it says.
By the way, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Weed, the User's Guide is one of the most useful books in my library. I use it all the time when I need to clean a bong. I need to learn about anything. Pick it up. Highly recommended.
Thank you. Yeah, so that went well. And then Sasquatch came to me and said, would you ask if I'd be up for writing a book about a guide to Pacific Northwest cinema? Mm-hmm. And this was spring of 2021 when we were still in serious COVID lockdown. And that seemed like a great way to spend a year indoors. So I agreed, and they gave me a word count, and I was like, at first we thought it might be like 80, 90 movies.
Right.
And I ended up finding nearly 200. It's films from Washington and Oregon.
Mm-hmm. I heard that you did not include Idaho. Is that correct?
It's true. Technically, the Pacific Northwest is geographic region loosely bounded by Rocky Mountains to the east and Pacific Ocean to the west, and that includes Idaho, but Idaho's landlocked and spiritually seems closer to its eastern peers. Nice way to say it. And so I don't recognize Idaho. I don't even know what you're talking about.
And one of the things you cover in the book, which I found really fascinating, that we always have to address, is the Vancouver as Seattle proxy.
Yes.
How did you deal with that in researching the book?
It was, there's a little section called the Vancouver Switcheroo, and what it is movies that explicitly say, we're in Seattle, but they're all filmed and produced in Vancouver, BC, where I spoke to a local filmmaker, and their film incentives and everything in Vancouver making a film 30% cheaper, which is, you can't argue with that. No. You can love Seattle all you want and be like, oh, I can't afford to make a movie here. But we have this new film commission, and we're working to change this. We're going to get a lot of productions here for Seattle. But for the book, it's kind of a spectrum, because some movies are completely Vancouver, BC, and they just have a shot of the Space Needle and a shot of a fish. And then there are others that kind of go back and forth, and if they got, like, Fabulous Baker Boys is a half and half kind of here in LA, but they really captured something about the spirit of this place in a way. So it's kind of like, oh, if you fooled me in a brilliant way.
You know, when you were researching these movies, and I know this is a little bit of a self-serving question, but how much of a resource was Scarecrow Video for your work?
Huge. Like, just when it came down to where I'm not proud, but like, I'll watch a weird link. I'll watch a weird link, but when the weird link is not there, there's only one place to go. Yeah, definitely, like, late autumn, I could only find here. There were a few others, a couple like the 70s crime movies, like 99 point something.
99 and 44/100% dead.
Well, and something that was important with physical, even if I could find it streaming, is I got a lot of information from commentary tracks.
Right.
So you need a DVD for that.
And that's what I love about physical media. You get director's commentaries, you get bonus features, you get context about how this movie came to be. Do you remember what was the first film that you started watching for this project? Like you purposefully were like, okay, I'm starting this. What's the first movie?
I think it was Sleepless in Seattle, because I had to do like a sample chapter to show them like what my voice is, or that And
had you not seen it in a long time?
I saw it when it came out. Saw it in the cinema here, because I had my friend was body double for Meg Ryan, and she was like, I hid in that closet with the phone.
Jonah. Miss Scarlet in the broom closet with the radio.
It's a miracle. Like, it's such a good movie. Like, the math of that rom-com of like how it adds up, and the fact that they only touch hands at the end. Like, it's not, rom-coms are chases mostly.
I want to talk about a couple of my favorite shot in Seattle films, and just to see what your take is on them. One that I only recently discovered, honestly, which is maybe why I'm so psyched about it. I discovered it a couple of years ago, was Class of 1999.
The year is 1999. The gang-controlled areas have become known as free fire zones. Kennedy High is located in the middle of a free fire zone. The police will not enter. There is no law.
And not only is it shot in Seattle, but they use Seattle so perfectly to represent like a weird post-apocalyptic punks take over the world kind of vibe.
For sure.
Had you seen that film before?
Nope. And I was really into it, and it was also like not too far from our Black Lives Matter summer and the idea that Seattle has been lost to the punks, and like so it felt very timely.
What's going on? This is a free fire zone. Yeah, the cops still won't come in here, so they got their own goons now.
Maybe I should have stayed in prison.
Welcome, students, to Kennedy High School. All weapons must be surrendered before entering the school ground.
That school was like chopped. It was like, this is a free zone, no government, so they have to send in robots to discipline those students.
These artificially created tactical education units have been thoroughly programmed in history, chemistry, all mathematics, of course, physical education. And they also come equipped with the optional XT6 hardware to deal with discipline problems. Mr. Bryant.
1 million megabytes.
And I was out with Megan Griffiths and Lacey Levitt, and we were at Gainsbourg in Greenwood, and we were talking about movies. We were walking out after like a couple hours, and I brought up Class of 1999, and Megan pulled out of her purse a VHS copy of it, said, "This?" And then a man who was smoking outside said, "I'm in that movie."
Freeze! Don't anybody move a muscle!
Connie Stevens is Scorchy, the hottest cop on the force.
Another a great Seattle film, and I know we both have a good connection to this because of Kaleidoscope, who is a legend. We all know, but they're playing in the live stream, so we all know all about them. But their montage of Scorchy has been one of their signature things for years. But I was wondering what your experience was like watching the full movie versus the Kaleidoscope 20-minute edit, which we all know about.
Right. Well, the full movie, you think like nothing can make the edit look any better, but the full movie makes the edit look so good. It's just one of those bad movies that is bad in the same way over and over, and kind of long stretches of taking itself too seriously but not delivering any trashy dialogue. Then the Kaleidoscope edit is just the all killer, no filler 20 minutes. There was a little thing too when you're watching the whole movie. Scorchy goes undercover as an expert in bronze statuary to nab a killer, and it reminds me of another partially Northwest movie called Black Widow.
A killer too clever to leave a trace.
She married 3 different men. She killed all of them.
An investigator no one believes.
You don't quit your job to go chasing after some phantom.
The thing is, I know I'm right.
They're playing a deadly game. Only one can survive. Deborah Winger, Teresa Russell, Black Widow. She mates and she kills. Rated R.
Teresa Russell she's a young, beautiful woman who loves a rich husband who dies quickly, and she comes to Seattle and gets really into the Coast Salish artifact scene to find a rich husband. So it's like, oh, posing as an expert in statuary is a hot trick in the Pacific Northwest.
So I know so obviously you are a Seattle icon and a Showgirls expert and used to write Last Days for the Stranger, and we know and love you here, but you now live in El Paso, Texas.
True fact.
Was watching all these Seattle and Pacific Northwest based films while living in El Paso, Texas in lockdown, was that making you nostalgic for your old...
It was sweet. It was great. And the big thing was when I came back the first time after lockdown, I was unduly excited to see stuff that I'd seen on film. I don't know why as humans we're like, I saw that in a movie, and it changes it. But even me, I'd lived here 30 years, and I was like, oh, that's that corner where Lindsay Krause stood and tried to nab Joe Mantegna in House of Games.
I come into your store, and I hand you $20 in singles. And I say, excuse me, miss, could you please give me a $20 bill? I have to send a registered letter to my aunt. And you give me the bill, and I seal it, and you watch me seal it in the envelope. A little page in the history of the short con.
One more film I want to talk about because I watched it recently because it was in your book. And it's also in our new Queer Spotlight section, which is called Be Gay, Do Crimes. It's called Trouble in Mind. It stars Chris Christopherson, Laurie Singer, and Glenn Milstead, a.k.a. Divine, as a crime boss. I want an entire movie about that character.
Most people imagine me to be a very patient person, whereas I'm just the opposite. The very moment I want something, I have to have it. Nothing ever satisfies me. Everything comes too late. Too late for me, and I get eaten up inside. When is it going to happen? When? Takes all the fun out of a bracelet when you have to buy it yourself. Oh, well. Pay them 300 Rambo and be done with it.
We ain't taking 300. You know why?
Clue me.
Glenn Milstead, the Divine character, has this... He's the crime boss, and he has a house party, and it's the Seattle Asian Art Museum in Volunteer Park, back before it was titled that, but...
And then there's an insane shootout in front of the Asian Art Museum that just takes that movie into like a weird, bizarro, almost like parody territory.
That's a good movie. That's a bunch of really weird, strong choices that they just commit to of like, here's a weird, spacey, new wave future for like the new wave criminals in Rain City.
Rain City
is what they call Seattle. That was a surprising one.
One thing that I've heard you talk about before is there are a few actors who we keep seeing in Pacific Northwest films.
True.
Who is that?
Okay, so there's a bunch that have appeared in 3 Pacific Northwest films, and that is Jack Nicholson, Jeff Bridges, Ali Sheedy, River Phoenix, and Keanu Reeves. And then there are 2 that have appeared in 4 each. Mark Duplass.
I miss you. I miss my friend.
Oh, this is that moment, isn't it? This is your intervention.
And Julianne Moore, who was, for me, that was my film going thing, the early 90s, and there's like, why is that sporting actor so good, and why do I want to see more of her? And that was always Julianne Moore. It happened like movie after movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were here.
Can we turn this off? Can we just turn this off? Come back.
No.
Let's just forget about it, okay? There'll be other boys, other midnight swims, other prom dresses. No!
Cindy.
No, Cindy!
Wish me luck.
Hello.
Marlene! Claire!
Marlene, is everything all right?
No. I need a doctor. Know of any, Mrs. Mott? Where's Claire?
Marlene, please.
Where is she?
She's in the greenhouse. But please, Marlene, please don't go out there.
Claire! This is important. It has nothing to do with the party. Claire? Claire?
I hate being killed by a greenhouse. They're supposed to be peaceful.
I love that she's killed by a greenhouse. All right, before we go, I just want to mention we have Filmlandia here at the store for sale.
Yay!
And we're going to have a Filmlandia Pacific Northwest section up soon, so you can come in and rent all of the movies in this book. I hear you're working on another book right now, too. Is that right?
Yes, and that one will take a while. It's about me and my mom, and it's not as easy as watching a bunch of movies and being sassy.
Well, I have to say, I used to read your writing in The Stranger and some of the stories you wrote about your mom, and I am so looking forward to that.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you, David. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.